Hi, it's Texi. This video is all about making art for a game, so I have my fiance Axelmo here with me because they're for a game he made.
Hello! Is this on?
Maybe. Anyway, the game is called Castle Rodok and it's very PlayStation 1 retro graphics inspired little fantasy adventure game where you adventure in a castle or a dungeon or outside the castle and stuff like that. It's fun. And in this video here I'm making art for the character creation for it because you can choose from 5 different races in it. You have humans, elves, lizard people, wolf people and shark people. So yeah, I have a couple of questions for Axelmo, so he can talk about making the game. I have difficult questions, so have fun.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, first question. Why did you go for the retro aesthetic?
It reminds me of better days. Well, actually the reason is that nowadays games look so realistic, it's easy to forget you're playing a game. So I wanted to make something that it's not that easy to forget that you're playing a game. Like I want immersion, but I also want that feeling of okay, I won't take this too seriously. Also, I just really like especially the affinity textures where they warp around and polygon jitter is my kink for some reason. I just really like those things. They're just nice to watch, and it makes the game feel a bit more alive when there's some jittering going on. Like, well, this is a bit of funny way to say it. I don't have to animate breathing for a character when the jittering is doing the movement for the character itself. So I just like looking at old graphics. They just tickle something in my inner child or something. I don't know. Just makes me happy to see that kind of crappy graphics again.
What was your biggest challenge in the process of making the game?
The process of making the game. Everything.
Okay.
Well, I think the biggest hurdle for me, because I'm a programmer, not an artist, it was the art side, so 3D models, everything. But I bought a lot of assets, either from Unity Asset Store or elsewhere. I also looked for CC0 assets, 3D models, free 3D models with public licenses. I don't know what's it called.
I know what you mean.
Royalty-free licenses. That's what I mean. So that saved my ass. But yeah, when I'm making my own 3D models, that was the hardest part. Like one of the hardest parts was though when we combined those programming and 3D modeling. But it wasn't that hard. But it was one of the hardest part of that was when you had to combine changing textures on the fly for a character depending what armor they're wearing, and then changing their skin color and stuff like that. It got very complicated quickly because I have basically 3 shaders that I switch around constantly. Also, one of the hardest things was AI for the enemies. It's really hard to make computer chase you without making them bump into everything or do some stupid shit. And thankfully the Unity pathfinding is very easy to use, but it's not. It could be better. Like there's things like R-star pathfinding that's much better. It's very basic, and I can't really make the enemies any more smarter with that pathfinding.
What were the most important things you have learned?
Did I learn anything?
I don't know.
I don't make too many features for one project, like start very small. This is something I learned a long time ago, but it applies every project I ever make. You start small. When you start with an idea, you always think, okay, I'm gonna add this and this. It won't make that much difference. It won't add that much time, but it adds up quickly, and then you realize you have to make a AAA game by yourself.
Yeah, that would be a challenge.
Yeah, it won't just work. So You have to work in your limitations. And when you get everything basic done, like the base, then you can start adding features one at a time. Don't add 5 features at a time, just add one at a time. And try to make the game like the code and everything, so that you can easily add more modules. This was one of the biggest things in this game, because I made it so that I can make any time I want more level modules. I can make anytime more enemies. I just have to get a 3D model animations, for example, for the new enemy, and then I just slap the enemy script on there, and I just tweak the values for the enemy, and then it's done. So I don't have to make every enemy from the scratch. I just make one base and then add models. It gets really easy. And with the levels, I just make a module like 30 times 30 Unity units module. There's 2 doors or more, and then I can slap it anywhere in the level, and the level builder will slap it there. So I can make any kind of levels now I want. I just need to make more modules.
Yeah, I didn't mention that in the game the levels are random generated.
Yeah, I haven't made the levels myself. I have made the modules where the level builds, but the levels are always different.
Keeps things interesting.
I hope.
Any tips on making a game solo, other than what you already mentioned?
Don't cry. Don't forget to ask help. It's impossible. Well, it's possible, but it's really difficult for one person to make everything alone. It's very difficult.
Unless you are multi-talented.
Yeah, I am not. I'm more a programmer, so I ask Texi to make the UI, and I ask my friend to make the music, but everything else I did myself or used assets. So don't be afraid. Even if you work mostly solo, you can still get some help, and don't be afraid of using assets. As long as you make the assets look like they're cohesive together, nobody will care. It's funny how people go, oh, lazy, you used assets, but then you go back in the past and play Morrowind and hear that door noise in 20 other games. Like, yeah, sure, they were lazy. Like, no, that's not what it means. It means it's being smart to not too much work. And keep taking breaks. Don't be like me and suddenly spend 12 hours in a day for making one game.
Have you ever done that?
Well, in the game jam I did. Yeah. There was 2 days where I worked 12 hours both days. So don't do that. I mean, it was a game jam, but still don't do that.
Basically work smart.
Yeah, if you work on the side like I do, just don't worry about it. If you can't work every day because you have lost all your energy, or even if you make like 1 hour, half an hour in a day, as long as it moves the project forward, you're fine. It may take longer, but it's moving forward. So do something like that every day if you can, and if you can't do every day, that's fine too. It's a hobby for me, so I don't really go all in.
So basically don't burn yourself out.
Yeah, that's very important, because when you're solo it can be really easy to burn yourself out. Also find some kind of group to talk with about your game.
We should totally plug your Discord right now.
Well, yeah.
Games and Dev, because there are a bunch of game developers on there. I can leave a link in the description. It's a tiny server. It could use some people. It's a tiny,
quiet server that I never talk.
But like, especially if you're a programmer and just want to meet other people who are making games, it's a nice, tiny, quiet place.
We'll talk if we have somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
It's very quiet.
My next question was, where do you begin when you start a new game project? But I think you have kind of covered that. But do you have anything else to add?
I just make a plan. I make a plan of features. I make a basically write down the vision I have for the game, like what I want this game to do, what kind of fun elements does it have, what is it, write it down, even in simple lines, write it down. I write like, this car game very fun, stuff like that. like it doesn't matter if you write a novel or not, just write it down, and then you have easier time to figure out what features you don't actually need or you can add later, and start from the basics. I always start from the basics. Some people start from the assets, but I start from the basic programming parts. Like if I would make a car game now, I will just start Unity and make a cube that can drive around a map or something. I wouldn't even bother about the looks at all yet. I would make and everything ready programming wise. Then I start making 3D models, and then I just slap it in the game, and boom, it usually works.
Usually. I'm so bad at writing things down. Maybe that's why I don't make games. Anyway, one more question. What was most fun part? Or what was the funniest bug?
No bugs are funny. Fun part, it's kind of fun. Fun was to make the level generator when I was watching a tutorial about it and making it on the side. I was wondering if it takes me like 3 days, but I made it 1 hour.
Whoa.
And then I started making the levels. I think level design is really fun. It's fun to make something that looks nice and is like trying to find the correct atmosphere for the game. It's really fun. I wanted this game to feel cold, so I went with blue colors and stuff like that. That's just really entertaining to make it look something you are visioning. Also, when you see things come alive, it's always fun. When you make your first enemies and you start moving around your own character and you have your first little fights, you realize that there's something going on in this little world of yours, and it's soon ready. And also the fun part is when the game's done. The most fun part is absolutely watching other people play, because they play so wrong. Nobody can play right. Nobody plays like the way you want to. But that's the thing, you never know what people do, and it's entertaining to watch.
And this is why playtesting is important.
Yeah. Also, it's funny to laugh at people who can't play your game right and suffer, as in jump into pits all the time.
I'm so bad at the platforming parts in Rodok. They keep falling to my death. Like, if I enter a level and there's a platforming thing, I usually try every other possible option before going there.
Yeah, I need to add more of those platforms.
No.
Because they're funny.
No.
Yes. And funniest bug, I don't know. There's not been many bugs actually, like big bugs. I think the funniest one was actually right before launch, or right after I launched the game. It went live and people started downloading, and then I tried it and myself, and then I had added a Discord support so people can see on Discord what you're doing in the game. I tried closing Discord and opening the game, so the game crashed immediately when you launched it. And then it opened in Discord, and then the game reopened again. So that was one of the funniest bugs, because it kept just launching people's Discords even it didn't need to. And that was because I had forgotten to set one tiny word to different tiny word, because the game was checking if that it's necessary to have Discord installed if you would sell that game on Discord store, but it wasn't like that, so I fucked up.
Whoops.
I think that was one of the funniest things, because it was so quick and I was like, oh shit, right after launch, like 5 seconds after launch, I realized.
At least you realized that soon.
Yeah, it took like 30 minutes to fix, and I was on Twitter like, okay, please re-download. Other bug was funny is enemies got stuck flying in air if they didn't find a way to ground or something. So they just floated around. It was really weird, and when you tried to hit them, they would just disappear into thin air because they tried to find where they are.
I like the thing people do where they just jump on trees and then fall off the map. For some reason people like to do that.
Yeah, I don't understand why people like to climb on trees in the game, but
because they can.
I keep it there as a feature, I guess. If they jump off the map, then it's their fault, not mine.
That's true. Oops, I think this is going to be a much longer video than I planned, but oh well. Well, anyway, that was all of my questions, so I hope that was interesting, and thanks for answering my difficult questions.
Yes.
Were they difficult?
Yes, they were okay.
Very Finnish answers.
Yes. What do you want me to say?
I don't know. Anyway, Castle Rodok is available on itch.io and it's free unless you want to pay. So you can pay, but you don't have to.
Yeah, it's free.
And I'll link that in the description, and I'm also gonna include the trailer at the end of this video, just so you can see what the actual game is like, because the character creation buttons really give you no idea of what the game is like. So yeah.
Yes.
We're gonna shut up now. Enjoy the trailer.
Goodbye.
Bye.